What's up, guys? Welcome to the first ever episode 67 of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. As always, I'm your host, Tim Gettys, joined by the coolest dudes in video games, Colin Moriarty and Greg Miller.
Hi.
Greg Miller looking damn good.
That's what I do.
P.S. I love you shirt.
Do you like that? Available at kindoffunny.com/store. Or you could just come get it off my body at Kinda Funny Live at kindoffunny.com/tickets.
Yep, there's a lot of ways you can do things. How you guys doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, thank you.
I'm excited to play more Axiom Verge. I started on Vita finally. The cherry is broken. I'm no longer a Tom Happ virgin. He's been inside my eyeballs.
Penetrated your...
He's penetrated
Tom
my
Happ's
eyes.
penetrated you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. That's good. So are you going to be playing that on your flight over to PAX East?
My PAX East flight will be Axiom Verge related since I've platinumed that they're severed.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Welcome
times
to the
for
club.
everybody. Yay, Platinum Club for Severed.
The coolest dudes in video games.
Pretty
Freeze
damn
frame.
cool. Pretty damn cool. What do you think of Severed before we get into everything?
Embargoed.
We're embargoed.
really?
I mean, it's I don't know, it's great.
Okay.
We'll talk
Well,
more
it's over
about
by now.
No, it's not. I mean, it technically.
P.S. I love you. XOXO on Tuesday. Topic of the week will for sure be.
There
Topic
you
of the
go.
show will for sure be.
Okay.
But I do want to reiterate what for people that don't listen to PS I Love You but listen to this show. Between Axiom Verge this week and Severed next week is a great chance to show Sony and the developers that you support the PlayStation Vita. Go buy these games.
Go to Vita Island.
Seriously, go buy them. Go
take
buy
a
them.
vacation
Put
on
your
Vita
money
Island.
where your mouth is and buy Axiom Verge and or Severed and show Sony that PlayStation Vita is still alive. We want more of these games. Show the devs that it's worth their time to bring their games over. These are two great games.
Yes. Definitely. This show, every week we get together, we talk about video games and stuff. If you want it for free, you can go to youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. If you want to support us, you can go to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, get the show early, whole bunch of other goodies. It's a word Greg taught me.
It is.
And I
Goodies
like it
is
a
a
lot.
word that I taught. I said, Tim, do you want some of these goodies? And he closed his eyes and reached on in.
I did a weird mouth thing, and it was weird. They were good goodies though, Greg.
Yeah, they were great goodies.
You can get them over there on their Patreon. It'll be great. So getting right into it, I want to talk about this PlayStation Neo business. You guys had a whole discussion about it on PS
Twice.
I Love
Call
You.
it that, I guess.
It's been on PS I Love You. It's been on Colin and Greg Live. And there keeps, every time we think we're done with it, another layer of the onion appears.
Oh yeah, people have opinions on this, guys. I don't know if you knew about that. I tweeted out what the people out there thought, and there was a lot of responses. Overwhelming amount of responses, both on my Facebook and Twitter and everything. It's like people are definitely...
People have opinions about PlayStation 4.5.
Both sides. I'd say it's actually fair, at least from the representative sample of my people.
Yeah.
It was pretty 50-50 between the this is fucking an abomination and the guys calm the fuck down.
Yeah.
So I understand that we at this table kind of differ on our thoughts on it. I am in the it's not that big a deal crowd.
I'm in the middle of the road. I want to know more about it. I want to see what this all nets out as, and I want to talk to developers who are working with it and what they think. I want to see how Sony sells it and what their thought process is. Because everybody talks about PlayStation Neo at the moment, because I don't understand why Sony would do this. What are they doing? Why would they do that? I'd like Sony to answer that question.
That's the thing. Sony hasn't officially said anything.
Correct.
So
If you somehow missed everything. Right, rumors of PlayStation 4.5 forever. Giant Bomb puts up a story that's incredibly detailed. Then Colin talks to one of his sources. There's a source over on Reddit now with his own thread. All these different things are happening in terms of what 4.5 is and what it means.
So Colin, you kind of came up with a list of salient points.
Yeah. So, I mean, on PS I Love You, this news was fresh, and I was a little ranty, as I often get. So it wasn't the most coherent. It was a good conversation. I've gotten a lot of mostly... So, hundreds of tweets actually, people being like, "Thank you for sticking up for people that own PS4 already," and people that play console games and all those kinds of things. Also, some detractors and stuff like that. But I boiled it down in my mind to 5 points. We won't talk about
Colin
it all at once.
Moriarty's top 5 points about PlayStation 4.5.
But there's
you should have done 4.5 points.
Yeah, that would've been
good.
But there are 5 things. These are the 5 questions that I have, and the 5 things that I think people should be thinking about and talking about. It's what about the people that already own a PlayStation 4? That's the first thing that we have to talk about, right?
Continue to enjoy your PlayStation 4.
What about the expectations of the console space? That's a big one. The expectations of the console space going back to the mid 70s. What about the developers of games? That's a big one for me. What about splitting the PS4 ecosystem? So what about the ecosystem that already exists, the console that is already about getting close to 40 million units sold, which is an extraordinary amount of units in 2.5 years. And then what is Sony thinking is the 5th question. And it's those 5 points that I think will answer one way or the other, no matter how you feel. I don't know that you really have to talk about anything outside of those 5 points to draw a conclusion about what PS 4.5 or PS2 4K or PS Neo, whatever they're going to call it, Neo being the internal name.
Code words.
And to me, this is a console that makes no sense in the way that the ecosystem has always worked. Consoles have always been weaker than their PC counterparts, their peers at the time. This goes back to the Apple II and to the IBM PC in 1981. I mean, this is not a new phenomenon. You know, there were PCs in 85 and 86 way more powerful than the NES. There were PCs way more powerful, and Macs way more powerful in 1991, 1992 around the SNES and Genesis era. This is an ancient problem. Games like Doom ran on PCs much more sophisticated than games like consoles like SNES, and Doom was ported and had to be really dumbed down to fit onto these things. So this is not a new phenomenon. The question I have is why? And the question I have is why now? And the question I have is what does this have to do with? And so I think that, you know, we can get into the conversations of all these things, and I have my sub points.
Where do you want to start? Where do you want to start? I think the answer of why now, it's got to be related to VR. Correct?
I think so. I think that PSVR is the impetus for this. I don't think it's the only thing that's going to benefit from it. Clearly 100%. It's not, but it seems like it's one of those things to me where the cart was put before the horse, where it's like, okay, we have PSVR. There's not enough horsepower on the PS4 to run this thing with our vision moving forward. We can run maybe these launch games in these first year and a half games, but eventually we need more horsepower, and there's just not enough time for us to get the new console out. So how can we kind of market this to benefit everybody? And this is, I think, the solution they came up with. So I think that even though Sony hasn't said anything about it, and we'll see how they position it, the documentation that's been leaked that it apparently is maybe going to developers or publishers seems a little disingenuous because it doesn't talk about PSVR. It talks about the added horsepower that's being added to the console, but like, where's the evidence that we need that added horsepower in any of the games we're playing? That's the one question I have off the top. And I think one of the most salient points that we have to begin with, and one of the things that struck me first was, what about people that already own PlayStation 4, especially the people that recently bought one? And I think that this is something that's being overlooked time and time again. There are people tweeting at me and messaging me on Facebook and all these places. I just bought a PS4 2 weeks ago. You know, I'm like, yeah, that fucking sucks, dude, because you're not in the phone space where you expect, well, this is going to happen to you. You're actually in a space where you expect that this console is going to be good and solid for you for at least a few more years, maybe 5, 6, 7 years. And I think that's a reasonable thing.
The point that it will be good and solid for you for the next 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, but now they feel like they're getting the outdated product, and that's.
But I mean, that's the same. That's you say like that isn't something that's new. That isn't something that has changed. How many times have I just bought the PS3 and here's the PS3 Slim. I just did this. Here's this.
This is such a Xbox 360 and the Elite isn't even.
These are terrible examples, guys. These are not consoles that run the games any differently. That's what I'm saying. Like, these are not steps up. That is the exact opposite. The PS3 Slim was designed to make the console cheaper. But like the Elite maybe not, but like I guess so. When Xbox 360 started to iterate on this thing, it was to make the components cheaper and it's cheaper to go at retail. This is the exact opposite. Well, this is a more powerful console.
Elite had better parts in it.
Internet.
And yeah, it had all that stuff too. It was a better console.
It didn't. There was no. If I put a single player like whatever game on it, you would not be able to differentiate between the two consoles. It's the same thing with the PS3, the Slim, the Foreman Grill, and the Fat didn't run these games any differently. I do not buy this particular argument. I think that there's arguments that could be made, but that argument doesn't make any sense. There have been new console versions since the Atari 2600. There were 2 NESs, there were 2 SNESs, there were like 3 Genesises, but they all ran the games the same.
Well, I mean, so I think the point of this isn't a new rumor. 4.5 has been rumored longer than 2 weeks. This is how, I mean, you say it's a terrible argument. I don't agree. There's always another better, something's about to come out that's better in the video game space. People hit us up all the time. Is it okay to buy a Vita now? Are they not going to redesign that or something? And not again, horsepower, sure. But in terms of this, if you bought a PlayStation 4 2 weeks ago, congratulations. You still have an awesome PlayStation 4 that's going to play awesome games that look great and run well.
I guess. I mean, if I was, I'd feel jilted as shit, and I think a lot of people do out there, in the sense that, and I'm speaking for, I think people have been reaching out to me, being like, "Thank you for speaking, like using your voice to speak for us," because like it seems like people are just excited about new tech, but in the console space, which might be a little more antiquated than say the PC space or the phone space in the way we do things, there is cause for concern because not only is it about the 4.5, but now it's about like, is this just the way it's going to be now? Like consoles were about ubiquity. They were always about that. It was about there being the same console for everyone. We all play the game the same way. We might have different consoles, but the PS3 Slim and the launch PS3, unless you had like the 12 gigabyte one that couldn't even download patches or whatever, they ran the games the same. So I just see this as an apples and oranges kind of argument because the innards are not different. No one in 2009 was like, the PS3 Slim runs your games better. Makes your games look better. The Foreman Grill didn't come out and say like the games are there's more power and the games look better and we'll have 2 different versions of the games now and you have to go and developers have to go out and patch things. I just don't buy this particular argument. it is not the same, because no, it is not new to have redesigned consoles. It's new to have a redesigned console that's more expensive than the old console. I can't think of a single example of that ever happening. The Elite's different because
why?
Because Xbox 360, like with the Xbox 360, yeah, they added, I guess, like some internet stuff or like some
Wi-Fi built in.
Yeah, like the Wi-Fi was built in, so you didn't have to have the hard drive thing is irrelevant too. You can buy. There were 3 different PS3 hard drives at the beginning. That doesn't run the game any differently. Like I don't understand this particular argument. So the Xbox Elite has a built-in Wi-Fi, which the original one you had to buy an extra component. That's not running the games differently. Like it's just not. Like I'm sorry. Like that particular argument doesn't make any sense.
But the games run fine though. Like that's the thing. It's not like the games are not going to work if you have a PS4. You know, it's not like the Nintendo, the 3DS and the new 3DS where there's games that just straight up work better on the new 3DS compared to the normal 3DS, or some that are exclusive to the new 3DS and not the original 3DS.
Right, and then people look at games like Hyrule Warriors or something like that barely runs.
Yeah,
on the old 3DS.
But that's an issue with what that is though. This is supposedly different. This is supposedly it's just enhanced versions. And like the 3DS thing, they're building it for that new 3DS. Whereas this is they're building it for the PS4. The PS4 4.5 stuff, that's just an option. That's just there. The questions I have, and I just don't know this, are, so what is the price that they're talking about?
They're saying the rumors were, Giant Bomb was saying that $399 was going to be the console price, and the original, I think the Wall Street Journal or Nikkei or something was saying $399 or $499, depending on the internals, which they, I guess at the time of publish, had not decided what their internals were going to be. My assumption is that it's going to be $399 because I don't know how you're going to sell a console that is even more expensive than the PS4 was. That to me is like a little weird. So I do think that they'll settle at the $400 price and then drop this other one, which PS4 is what, $349.99 right now. So you drop it down $299.
Yeah,
so you have to drop it to $199. I mean, like you have to have a big differentiation between these consoles at this point.
So
wait, I think is it $249.99 base unit and then bundles are $299?
I don't think it's $249.
Okay. It's been a while.
Maybe I don't.
I can do it. I'm on it. I got the device in my hand.
We're just assuming that this is a new thing, or it's going to be the Neo or the 4.5 or whatever. What if this just is the PlayStation 4?
Because they say that the documentation, as far as the leaks are concerned, saying that the two consoles will split. Will say like will be side by side, and they'll continue to sell them. But this particular argument, Tim, and you can appreciate this, reminds me a lot of Nintendo's 3-pillar strategy in the early 2000s when they were like, we're gonna have the GBA and the DS and the GameCube side by side. And what we quickly saw with that was that the Game Boy Advance was obsolete and was removed. And Game Boy Advance actually was I thought a fantastic system that disappeared very quickly because the DS was just a better unit. So they had some anticipation that the GBA would last in maybe 05, 06, 07, and it did, I guess, in some respect, last until 05 or so, but it was gone. I mean, the GBA's prime time was 3 years, and the DS's prime time really was still going until last year or 2 years ago. So it's like where there were still kind of new and unique games being released for it. So they stretched it out, but I feel like Nintendo's move at the DS move was premature because the GBA was still, and I think this is a great example, is the GBA still had life in it and it was still fun to play and it was still, God, I fucking love the Game Boy Advance. And
$350 right now, sorry.
$350, yeah, I thought that's what it was. So it's to me, it's a great example of like, well, Nintendo had something great with the DS and it sold very well and I enjoyed it. I remember I told a story, I think on PS I Love You or something, or Colin and Greg, where I was like, I didn't believe it until I played it and I was like, this is great. But they didn't have to kill the GBA like that. And this is kind of like there was no imperative for them to do that. The GBA actually was quite successful. So I look at the PS4, which is even more successful, the most successful PlayStation device ever so far, life to date within its life cycle. And to me, I look at it and I'm like, but why? Like, but why? You know, like, why are you doing this? And that goes to the question number 5. Like, this seems like premature. This seems to me to be a half measure. This seems to me to be something where it's like, if you just wait a couple years, you could really just get away with releasing the next PlayStation.
Now, have you seen these stories today, though, of the Shuhei Yoshida?
We did. We talked about it on... Now, I don't know. We know Shuhei Yoshida very well. Mm-hmm. And this is
the Lauren Lanning comment,
exactly.
Right?
So Lauren Lanning was saying how Shuhei Yoshida told him that at some point that like it's not a question of when, but if, with the PlayStation 5, when it will come out, if it will come out. So, but knowing Shuhei Yoshida, I'm not so sure you could read too much into that. He's very closed. You know, he keeps things close to the vest.
He's very clear, yeah, that things haven't been announced.
He's very skilled about avoiding answering questions. I've joked many times that I've never broken him. I've broken a lot of people, you know, and gotten a lot of information I probably shouldn't have from people in interviews, and he's impossible to break. So I don't read too much into that. I think PlayStation 5 is obviously going to happen. I think maybe when Lauren talked to him at some point, maybe that wasn't the case, but I think they would be foolish not to do that. But I think that like they could have just made the case in 2018 at E3. This is the PlayStation 5, and it's going to come out this fall. And we know that the PS4 came out 5 years ago. It's backwards compatible with the PS4, but we want to move on to the next hardware and have this more powerful thing. Instead, it's like a half measure. And now we have to wonder, like, how often is this going to happen? Can you reliably buy hardware? And I know that this isn't a problem for PC gamers and this is a thing in the phone space, but in the console space, this isn't really the way business is done. And so Sony's either being very forward thinking, which is possible. They've been very forward thinking so far. I think they're very forward thinking with PSVR. I think they've been very forward thinking with the way they treated gamers with PlayStation 4. Or this is an unforced error. Or it's just something that's just whatever. But I just don't know how it could be whatever. I really do think that it has to be one or the other. You know, like...
I definitely, I'm in the whatever camp. I think that from Sony themselves, I think that this is a move where the idea of people knowing what console cycles means, that almost doesn't matter. Like, things are changing. Like, we're at a different time. So what consoles were then is not what they are now. And I don't buy the phone argument either. Like, that, it just doesn't make sense. But at the same time, it's like things could totally change. And what we think of as getting the consoles before it was 5 years, then it's closer to 10 years. It's like that changed, you know, so why can't it be sooner than that? And like, why can't it be half steps? And it's never going to be quite like, I don't want to say never, but I don't ever see a place where it is like a PC where you can upgrade at any time. You can get a faster CPU or you can get a better graphics card. You're not going to get pieces
every 3 months. There's something that's better than that was. Yeah.
This is like, I mean, it's been a couple years. It's not like was just yesterday that this thing happened. Also, with the rumors of Microsoft doing it and the NX coming out, it's like that. This is a way to, like, with all the rumors of the NX being more powerful than PS4, whether or not that ends up,
I hope it is
the case.
You know, like, it's been 3 years at the point that comes out.
But that's things like that. This is something for Sony to kind of have to point to and just be like, well, there is this that does this. And I just don't think that, I honestly think that the PS 4.5 or whatever isn't going to be that big of a deal on the positive side for the people that want it. I think that
Agreed.
Sony can't allow it to. It's similar to the Kinect. People aren't going to make Kinect games because only so many people have Kinect. Same thing with Move. I think this is the same thing where it's like, they're going to make the games for the PS4 users. And the other shit, it's always going to be an afterthought. And it's always just going to be like, yeah, it is better, but it's good. It reminds me of the Xbox, GameCube, PS2 era. The Xbox games look better. Who the fuck cared? Everyone played it on PS2 or GameCube for Link, you know?
I wanted to, I just couldn't find it.
But you know what I mean? Like, I think it's that type of thing where it's like, it's being blown out of proportion now because A, we don't know anything official.
Exactly.
And B, it's just like, you know, it's easy to look at this as a bad thing. I totally understand where people are coming from. I understand the idea of like, shit, I just bought this thing. Like, that sucks that there's no way I can convince my mom to buy another of the exact same thing that I just got. But this isn't for those people. Like, I think that those people are going to be totally fine. And it's something for them to get mad about if they want to. But I think that they're going to get what they bought. And that experience is going to be awesome for them. The crazy tech people that need the newest things, I'm one of those people. I look at this, I'm going, fuck, I have a PlayStation 4. Like, I don't want to have to buy this thing. That sucks. But if I really want it, I'll figure out a way. I'll sell it. Like, I will sell it, make enough money, and yeah, probably have to pay a bit more to get the new one, but I'm getting something out of it. It's not like it's just a fair trade if they release a new thing and I'm like, oh, I deserve that one. You know, I bought this one. I've had years of entertainment with it. And that's the people that bought it 2 weeks ago. They had 2 years to buy it.
Yeah, I just, to me, it's, again, it goes back to expectations. It goes back to, I'm glad that you deal with that you agree with the phone issues specifically. And I know some people are like, well, it's no different than phones. It's way different than phones. For 15 years, we've been subsidized. Our phones have been subsidized and not outright paid for. Talk to me in 5 years now that subsidies are going away and see how often you iterate on your phone now that you have to pay $500 or $600 for it, which most of us haven't been doing, by the way.
But I mean, see, that's still not true though. Cause like the phones are still subsidized. Like, if you do it right with the phones, you are still getting your phone for about $200.
I mean, I'm still getting mine, but a lot of people are telling me that a lot of this stuff's going
away now.
That's
they're doing it wrong. I mean,
but it doesn't matter, Tim. The point, and you're making my point. The point is that like we live in a subsidized, we live in a subsidized place with phones where it's like everyone's like, well, I get a new phone every 18 months, but I'm like, you're not paying for it. Like, Sony's not subsidizing anything. So yeah, we might have this situation with a phone which does way more, and it's a way more dynamic machine than a gaming console. And to me, it's like, okay, that argument doesn't live up to it. If we were all paying $500 or $600 or $700 for our phones, we would not be iterating like this. And I guarantee you that the phone companies would not be releasing their phones as much as they are. They're getting fucking hundreds of millions of dollars from phone companies to do this, to keep people active on their networks and all these kinds of things. So it's a totally different thing. I think the PC gaming thing is way more apt. And this is as far as a comparison and where you can like kind of get into like, well, PCs are way more modular and we update them or whatever. But to me, it's like, if Sony wanted to do this isn't something they just pulled out of their ass, like a month ago or even a year ago. They knew they were going to do this, and they should have just made the PS4 modular. And at that point, I wonder where did this was this always the plan? Because people are now digging up old comments and old quotes from people being like, the PS4 you play on now is the PS4 everyone plays on, and like all these kinds of things, and why it's so easy to develop for, and and we'll get into that in a minute. But to me, it seems like it's just not the way we do things in the console space. And to me, it's either like I have to reimagine the way the console space is, and then and which is fine. I don't control or have any right to dictate the console space. I'm just giving my opinion on it. Some people will agree, some people won't. But then it makes me wonder, like, if this is the way we're doing things, then like, why am I even playing on a console anymore? Because like console gaming was supposed to be easy. Console gaming was supposed to be predictable. Console gaming was supposed to be ubiquitous. And now we're gonna have basically haves and have-nots and different tiers of gamers. And now you're gonna see, I can't wait to start seeing videos at E3 and all this kind of stuff where it's gonna say running on Neo in the corner. And all those kinds of things, and we're never going to see the PS4 version. It reminds me a lot of like where PS4 and Xbox One games come out. One of them's running at 920 or whatever. One of them's running at 1080, and it's going to be a similar thing now within the PlayStation ecosystem. Now, like, there's going to be games that are running at 1080, and runs at 720. Dude, a lot. I mean, come on.
I know
Tim.
people care.
A lot of people are going to care.
People are going to be angry about it, but really, what does it change? What does it matter when we're talking about the resolution thing?
I mean, I don't care about resolution, but whenever I say that to Greg, and Greg will know, I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck a game's running at half the time. I don't care.
But that's my point, though. Like, my point is,
I'm not the normal person.
People are gonna like this. It's an internet angry thing of people gonna be upset about this stuff, and yeah, people care. Like, but I'm saying that it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. People saying that this is like suicide for Sony to do. It's like,
I don't think it's suicide because they have such a great lead. The question is like, I certainly don't think it's suicidal in any respect. I just wonder if it's an unnecessary roadblock, if it's stymieing, if it's splitting focus, they already have PSVR to worry about. Now they have this other thing to worry about and the original console. It's just weird. And like this fall, if it comes out, so for people that are not familiar, like, the documentation indicates that games that come out in October or later must have Neo capability. And they must run on Neo in some respect. I don't know, better frame rate, improved frame rate, whatever, better resolution. There can be no special features. So, and Neo can't have like things that the other one doesn't have in terms of core features, but Neo could have like 8-player split screen when the other one has 4-player split screen or whatever. Theoretically or whatever it is. So it's like, there's according to the documentation. So all these like kind of Byzantine rules that I don't really quite understand yet.
Well, they're there because of what you were talking about to keep the ubiquity of the PSN together.
Right.
The ubiquity of you are playing on a PlayStation 4 no matter the resolution.
But the point that I think is being lost in this documentation, assuming that it's real, and who knows, Sony again still hasn't said anything about it, and I'm sure they're kind of still figuring out their message and crafting their message. I don't think they anticipated that this was going to happen. I don't know how you couldn't anticipate that this was going to leak, but to me, it's like, well, dude, the special features is the game runs and looks better. Like, that is the special feature. That is the special component of the game. If that's your marketing, if that's like the marketing idea and the way we avoid our problems all the time, you're going to be in for a lot of trouble because that's not going to fly with a lot of people. The special feature of game X on Neo is that it looks better and it runs better. And that's just unheard of in the console space. You usually have those kinds of things within different consoles. The Wii version looks like shit. The PS3 version looks okay. The Xbox 360 version looks great. Or the Xbox One version runs at this, but the PS4 version runs at this. But now you're gonna have the Xbox One version runs at this, the PS4 runs at this, and the Neo runs at this. But this whole thing is supposed to be the same on this side. This whole PS4 kind of thing is supposed to be the same. So is it like kind of like a sky is falling thing? I suppose. Is it a little bit hyperbolic? I suppose. This is like my guttural reaction to this because this is just not the way the business is conducted. And I fear.
But things change, to quote the Penguin in Batman
Things
Returns.
do change, but the question is like, things usually change for a reason. And console gaming is strong right now.
But I think there's a reason. We're at a place now where everyone has computers. Like whether or not it's a great computer, like a gaming computer or not, it's not like back in the day when you needed a beast-ass machine to be able to play games. Whatever you buy from Best Buy, you can play some games on it, and that aren't just Minesweeper. You can play real games on it, and that your tablets are computers, your phones are computers. It's like everything is so technologically advanced, and the entryway for people to have technology is so low now, where it's like people just have stuff. Like on my phone, I'm playing games that look amazing, that look like console games, and it's like everything's all mismatched and weird. And I think that it's like we're at a place where people can wrap their head around tech in a different way. Upgrading machines and upgrading things and different tiers of stuff. Like Apple has taught people that there's this version, then there's this version. And like people can wrap their head around that. And the thing with the phones that I don't agree with is the subsidized thing, because like that's like people expecting to be able to trade in the PS4 for the new one. Like that doesn't make any sense.
No, Sony's never going to do that.
But the thing that I do agree with the phone stuff is like the iPhone 6 or the iPhone 6S. That is a perfectly apt thing with what this is. Consoles haven't done that before, but with phones, it's not like the craziest thing ever. Like it was weird in the beginning when they first started doing it. Everyone's just like, fuck, well, I have a 6. That means I don't get a 6S. That sucks. You don't need it though. It does have a nicer camera. It does have new nicer things. It has nicer features, but you don't need them. Your 6 is fine. The 6S is just a better version of the 6. And I think it's the exact same thing. When you look at the iPads with the Retina display stuff, and this is my worry, is I have the Retina iPad, and there's so many apps that aren't optimized for it because people are optimizing for what most people have, which is the PS4. So I worry that the PS 4.5 is going to the premium stuff is going to be so limited that it's not even going to matter to the users that want it to. That's the bigger issue.
I'm trying to go through my notes here to make sure we're not skipping anything. I want to say that this to me reminds me most of I'm trying to think of times like you talked about the PS2 hard drive, which I think is like a minor thing. I think the bigger thing is the N6 because it's like it made the
games better.
It didn't make the games better. It made the games run faster and run better. They loaded quicker.
Special features. That's exactly what we're talking about.
Like, I guess. I mean, like, and maybe that's an apt thing, but to me, like the hard drive was like. I don't even remember anyone really caring about it compared to like and I could be wrong, but like I don't remember that being a big thing. I think more about the expansion pack with the N64, which gave the N64 boosted memory, and there were late N64 games like Majora's Mask that needed it to run. But to me, it's like that was a cheap component. The N64 was designed from the beginning. It was obvious there was a slot for it from the very beginning in 1996, and it also came with a big game too. So like, which I think was Donkey Kong. Mm-hmm. So they were already trying to get it out there by being like, well, just buy the game, and here it is. I think the bigger kind of weirdness that you find is maybe you have to go back to the Genesis and go to like 32X and all these weird things that they were trying to do towards the end of the Genesis life cycle to extract more power out of it while they were working on Saturn. And I think that didn't work out too well for them. So we don't really have a great comparison to see how this works, but we do have some anecdotal evidence or some historical evidence to figure out what this might look like. When you start having like, well, this game's on Genesis and this game's on 32X. And there was another one, wasn't there?
CD.
Yeah, then Sega CD. And I'm like, oh.
But see, the problem there is like you needed those for those experiences. And like, I like that so far, at least, this is all saying that it's like, no, it's everyone's getting the same games. And the limiting the special features or whatever wording they used, like that's the saving grace for this. Because if it was the new 3DS situation, that's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree. And again, I want to reiterate, because it's important, we're kind of just spitballing because we don't have...
They haven't talked,
and I don't know that they're going to. I mean, I don't know
you
that...
You think they'll wait till E3 at this point?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I wouldn't, but I don't...
You are going to continue to kick the beehive every week on PS I Love You.
No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if there's nothing new to say, there's nothing new to say. I mean, I'm fine saying this and moving on with my life. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's a fucking video game, but, or a video game console. But to me, the one thing that I think is that's being lost... or people aren't thinking about, and this is where I'm like kind of my conjecture of the things that I'm talking about are coming from, is the point of view of developers. Mm-hmm. The very fact is, easy or hard, simple or difficult, however it is, when you add something like this in, it is going to require extra planning. It is going to require extra QA, extra certification, extra production, extra money, and extra time. And this is something that has to be accounted for. It's indisputable. Like, you can't dispute that.
100%.
So like whether or not like, people, the source that I talked to indicated to me, a well-connected source. And, I think you would indicate or think that the source is a well-connected in the know person.
Sure.
Indicated to me that the people this source had spoken to, both within and outside of his own development circle, was not impressed, not happy that they have to deal with this thing, whether or not it's minor.
Exactly.
And that it's just something else that they have to think about. They have to budget for it with time and production and money. It's not just flipping a switch. People can say that if that's what they want, but it's not true. Whether or not they make PC games or not, and you have to make your PC games a little more modular, a little more flexible for different graphics cards and all these kinds of things, that still does take production.
100%.
And the game has to go through certification now for both of those.
Yep.
As far as we
there's going to
understand.
be problems that you don't see with one version that you see with the other. Over on NeoGaf, because I know you have your quote on Twitter, or not quote even, your statement
My
on
boiled
Twitter
down
about your
statement,
source. Risk Bearer over on NeoGaf had put this up. And I'm going to read it at length, but it'll get to the point of like, it starts off here like this doesn't matter, but then gets to exactly what you're talking about. You guys do know that console games in development actually can have graphic settings in a menu taken from the PC version or in a debug menu that you can change, right? Developer effort will come more in the sense that they have to keep the different performance budgets in mind. Meaning if you need to keep, let's say, your polygon budget under 30 million for the PS4/Xbox One version, you make a graphic setting around that. Then the PS4K would have an undefined number. You would add props, details, change LOD, which I don't know what that is, to use the PS4K's extra power. It's no different from doing different graphic settings on the PC. They'll probably make a baseline, a whole bunch of tech shit. It's not very different from what happens with multi-platform games. Extra platforms always mean extra hours in compliance, QA, and builds though. But games won't be or shouldn't be any worse for it. But it's exactly your point. That talking about like there's more to look out for now. There is more things, and I think that your source being like, this it's not like this is the worst thing in the world. It's like another fucking hurdle to get through, another thing to check on the box, another thing to test.
No, and I know that some people were, confused by some of the verbiage in my brief tweet, and I'm not tweeting this as a journalist. I'm just tweeting it being like, isn't this an interesting little kind of thing that I heard from someone that I can absolutely trust? Portillo. And it's, of course, the source being Portillo, a well-connected game developer. But to me, it was just putting it out there being like, this is what I heard. This person I trust 100% and would absolutely know. And does this source speak for everyone when he says most? No, but he's talking about his circle of people he knows, and you can kind of garner information from that. It's just same as political polling. When you say like, oh, Bernie Sanders has 36% of the vote or whatever, they didn't talk to everyone who's voting. Yeah, like you garner that information. So it's just anecdotal. Take it if you want, leave it if you want. It's not meant to be this scholarly pursuit with 5 different sources. It was me putting out some information that I thought people would find interesting, and I think they did. But it goes back to the point, and I want to make sure I'm not missing it here, where it's like the console developers specifically, or gamer developers that are more comfortable working on console, which are many, they're just used to one box, right? Or 2 boxes, Xbox One and PS4. And now they have to worry about a third one. And it might not be a major thing for them, and maybe it's another month of production or something like that, but it's a thing they have to budget for. This is going to cost them money. This is going to cost them time. And this is going to cost them headaches and dollars to fucking donuts. I bet you a game I bet you a game gets delayed because of this at some point. I bet you that a game just straight up doesn't run right on one of those, and they have to patch it. Now they have to worry about patching games twice. Now they have to worry about there's a lot.
Remember, patches being put through cert cost money.
Exactly. Like these things cost actual dollars. Like you don't send something to Sony and be like, can you just look at this? Like they pay them to do that. So it's to go on, to go on the store or whatever. And to your point about like, well, if this is the big conundrum. This is the same conundrum with Vita. This is the same conundrum with Wii U. Is the same conundrum with everything, where it's like, okay, so they ignore the Neo, which is really not, according to the documentation, isn't really allowed. The games have to run in both of those. They can't just say like the PS4, according to the documentation, the way I'm reading it, the PS4 game, they can't just ignore it.
Well, I'm not saying ignore. I'm saying like not focus on.
But what I'm saying is like, if they don't focus on it, then there's no reason for this to ever happen to begin with. If the developers don't want to do this, and maybe they do or maybe they don't, then you have to wonder like, who is this happening for? Because if developers don't want to take advantage of it, then who's going to buy it? And then the Neo people are going to be pissed. And this is like the whole other side of the coin, where it's like, okay, so the PS4 people are all happy as pigs and shit now because the games look exactly the same, and then the Neo people are like, what the fuck?
No, that's 100% jumping to the middle of the road statement I kept making on podcast PS I Love You XO and what's the other one? Colin and Greg Live, is the fact that like what I want them to say in that statement about what this does is makes games load faster, makes this happen, when they're just like improved frame rate, sharper visuals or whatever, I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna get that. Doesn't do it for me. That's not what's gonna move my needle to get me over. If they do come out and they're like, it's gonna make PlayStation VR run better, it'll look better in your headset, your games will load 3 times as fast or whatever, twice as fast, half as fast. Okay, cool. Now you've got my attention. Now I'm excited for it. Yeah,
to me, it's just an ironic kind of thing to think about from an analytical point of view of the haves and have-nots that we were talking about, like the have-nots being the PS4 users, the haves being the Neo users. But what if it's the other way? Like what if people are just like, fuck this shit, and the Neo games, like except for first party games, which are obviously going to take advantage of it, or the games that are patched or whatever. Like the way the documentation says is like games that come out in September have to be patched. Games that run in October have to run natively out of the box in this thing. So this is just the thing. People might be learning about this the last few months and being like, fucking shit, like we need more time now. Like we thought we were talking about crunch, I think the last episode or one of these episodes.
Yeah.
And how catastrophic that is. I just look at this and I'm like, this seems like a bit nightmarish. Even if it's just 5% more work or 2% more work over a 3-year cycle or a 4-year cycle, this is something that really has to be considered. And I don't think we're like appreciating enough how much of a pain in the ass this is going to be for devs. And the source that I talked to indicated that it very much is going to be that for them and for the people that source spoke to. So it's just something worth noting that maybe some devs of course some devs are gonna be happy about it. I'm sure devs want more horsepower.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure people are gonna want the newest, coolest things, and they want their shit to look better. It's like me with video stuff. Knowing there's a better camera than the one we're shooting on drives me fucking nuts. I want the better one, but I'll deal with this shit.
It's not, but it's not shit. It looks great.
No, I know, but that's when that is exactly it. It does.
Tim's kind of making the point though, right? Like better. That. Because no one has to buy anything, but I understand what people are saying where they're like, I have to buy this new thing. Now they feel like as hardcore PlayStation fans, like this is what they do. This is how they buy in. And
that's a bad place to be. Don't do that as a reformed hardcore Sega kid. That's a fucking stupid thing to do.
I guess, but we are that though. Like, or at least I am.
You
like
don't need to. If you don't want these things, don't get it.
I suppose, but all I'm saying is like I like because people are saying like, well, if you were against it, then why are you going to buy it? And I'm like, well, I'm kind of in the catch-22 where it's like I kind of need to be able to be authoritative about it. So like, I'm curious about it. I'm going to buy it when it comes out day one. I'll pre-order it. But I understand why people are upset, and sometimes you can't speak from your own perspective. Sometimes you have to speak from other people's perspectives and understand where they're coming from. And this is not a hard one to figure out. So, but to me, like there is a situation where I do think that the early adopters that made this thing possible, that made the PS4 success possible, that made the talk of Neo even possible at all, that the PS4 didn't fucking fall off a cliff and die, are looking at this being like, what the fuck?
I think there's a segment of them, I think there's a segment like me that doesn't feel that way and doesn't care.
But I just think that like those people should be listened to and those people should be heard. And I think they have a legitimate qualm based on the history of PlayStation consoles and based on the history of the way gaming consoles are done generally. And I think that this is treated more like the PS1 to PS2 era. And PS1 really only existed for 5 years. And that was fine. The PS2 came out and made it look like fucking trash. And I would have been really interested to see in 2018, 2019 if the PS5 came out and just made this thing look like trash, but was backwards compatible. So you had like a more ubiquitous console, a PlayStation network that can play these games, something that they didn't think about or didn't want to do with PS3 to PS4 because there was some money to be made in software sales and HD and collections.
And the fact that the PS3, PSN sucked.
But the final thing I want to think about, and if you guys can add anything in here, and I'm sorry to dominate the conversation, it's just that I wrote these notes, so I thought that would be interesting, is how are they going to market this thing and how are they going to show it?
Question,
and
man.
this is the burning question, right?
Yeah.
This is, how do you show the PlayStation Neo running a game without showing how much better it looks than what everyone already has, right? And that is going to be a marketing problem for them. Because at E3 they show God of War and it's running on Neo. Well, it looks great. What does it look like on the other console? And you're going to show it side by side and make your other shit look fucking obsolete and going to piss off millions of people doing that? Like, this is where the unforced error thing comes in, where I'm like, you guys have so much to worry about this fall already with PSVR. Maybe this wasn't the smartest idea, assuming that it's coming out in October. And I don't see why, according to the documentation, it wouldn't come out in October. Why would the games need to be ready at that point?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Why is that the cutoff?
Exactly. So unless it's like November and they want everything ready to go, and blah, 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 I don't know. They have to go through certification. So it's like, this is a big thing. This is the thing I'm most morbidly curious about is how do they budget it, like budget the time to talk about this thing, still give love to the PS4, make the Neo look like something you need to do or need to have without making the PS4 look obsolete. And it's like that. And this is the big question I have is like, the thing is that Sony's making the PS4 obsolete, or at least look like it. And no one else really felt that way. Everyone's like, I was excited. I often talked about like, think about in a few more years what they're going to be able to do with this console. And I always use the example of Resistance to Resistance 3, of Uncharted, Drake's Fortune, and The Last of Us. These are the same teams running the same hardware, using the same tool set, getting games that look drastically better than the originals on the same PS3. And I wanted to see like what Last of Us 2 would have looked like. And we're going to. But like, to me, it's like, that seems to me to be like, let's just give developers some more time and some more space. The console space was never about technological advancements like the PC space was, or the phone space, or the tablet space. It was about like, this is what we have. We're excited to have it, or we're not so excited to have it. And the games run on this for 4, 5, 6, 7 years, and then we move on. And so I just am curious how you like position this. Sony can be absolutely brilliant here. Some people are saying this is the Sony mistake we've been waiting for 3 years. I don't know. The one thing I feel, and I said on PS I Love You, is that I hope I'm dead fucking wrong about this. I hope I'm totally wrong. I hope I'm fucking totally wrong. And this is awesome, and everyone loves it, and all these kinds of things. I just can't wrap my head around
See,
it.
I think you're saying some things in there, that it's never been about a technological advancement, right? And clearly this year and what Sony's been doing is about that with PlayStation VR. This is supposed to be their big advancement. Shoes says they're treating it like a console launch. It is a game changer for them. You know what I mean? And I see from what we're hearing right now about this Neo unit, my prediction is it's going to be very much like the PlayStation VR unit, where it is, hey, here's this thing for if you're super hardcore into PlayStation, here's this avenue for you to get something that's a little bit better, a market increase. That's not insane, whatever. But if you want to have the best VR experience, you're one day going to need this, and you're going to have to do this, and you're going to have to start adding on all these different things. And it is, things change as we continue to talk about. And this is, they have to, their step in terms of like, this is the new world they foresee that they're laying out. And if it's the right world or the wrong world, we'll find out really quickly. But what's interesting, I mean, I feel so about it, and you kept saying it on Peace I Love You, and we got not argument, but we're talking in heated fashion or whatever. We keep saying, well, now everybody who's using the PlayStation 4 gets the shittier version. And it's like, fucking spoiler alert, everyone. Every game that isn't exclusive to the PlayStation has always been the shittier version. How much did we love how The Witcher 3 fucking looked on PS4? Beautiful game, amazing vistas. Oh my God, it's so great. And you look at it on PC and you're like, fuck, that's amazing. But we all said we like PlayStation and we like trophies and we like this, so that's why we do this, and that's why we're settling or taking the inferior version or whatever. And now there's this PlayStation 4.5. There's now this Neo that will maybe make it look better. And again, I think it's going to be a jump that's much more of a hop. That PlayStation 4 looks good. That looks really nice. That looks good. It's like I mean, for me, and this is kind of a shitty comparison because I didn't sit down and do them side by side. But it's kind of like when I saw Last of Us running on PlayStation 4, right, as the thing, and I was like, oh yeah, it looks good. Like, yeah, it looks, frame rate seems better. It's faster. It's smoother. Whatever. I didn't sit there and go, man, this makes PS3 Last of Us look like garbage. No, it looked like up-res PlayStation. You know what I mean? That's what I expected to be in terms of quality, in terms of clarity. If you've been happy with your PlayStation 4 experience and how games have looked, I just don't understand all of a sudden being like, now this thing is trash. It's garbage. And I got fucked because I had an unwritten contract with them that for 10 years, this would be the only PlayStation 4. You're still going to be able to play with everybody on Neo. You're still going to be able to do all this stuff. You're still going to have the same games. Yep. Frame rate might not be as good. Yep. Picture might not be as quality. I just don't. If that's what I cared about when I fucking cared about video games, I would own a PC and I wouldn't be on any PlayStation podcast.
But think about, I mean, to your point, because you're right, but think about it from a different perspective, which is not the perspective of the people that own PS4, but the perspective of just a general obvious question is, if it's not that big of a difference, then why the fuck is this happening at all? Like I
assume to make way for PlayStation VR and get this underlings and do this and be ready to build on that. But I'm with you on that. Don't get me wrong. I want Sony to answer the fucking question of what the fucking point is.
We'll see, but I think in terms of the marketing stuff, like I'm interested to see if it is as big of a deal as it sounds like, or if it's going to be something more like I think, which is this is just the new PlayStation 4. The pillar thing, like whatever the documentation says, to me, this just sounds like this is the Slim. This is the new PlayStation 4. And if that's the case, then I think all this is going to go out the window.
If they sledgehammer the price on PlayStation 4 and they say we're going to move the stock and stuff.
And not so much that it's like just doing a price cut and they live simultaneously. Even if they did, it's just more like the Neo is the PlayStation 4 going forward. And it's like the advancements it gets is loading times. And yeah, the frame rates might be better in certain things. It'll probably just be the AAA exclusive titles that get that. All the third party stuff will probably just be minor, like loading's faster.
I mean, third party stuff, I would feel, and this is again, who the fuck knows? I think would be the most easy to do, because it would be that you have PC and you have your PC high functioning, whatever skill tree they call it. And then you have your baseline graphics and you have your shitty things. And if you can have those sliders, you have to be able to feel like, well, where does Neo fit into one of these sliders? And then if it's as easy to do when you bring that over, who the fuck knows?
I think this is going to end up being the Slim of this generation. What the Slim and the Elite means in 2016, I think it's going to be that. And I'm going to be very interested if I'm wrong and if it is two very different machines that are
just
pushing
like
forward.
PlayStation VR, man, I'm super fascinated now to get these out, for VR to come out and see how people respond to it, but what the sales are like, how much people use it, what a month and a half reaction to PlayStation VR is, where we net out with it. And same thing here of just like, how are you going to market this? How are you going to sell this? How are you going to show it? What are you going to say about this? And when are you going to say about it?
And I think the other thing too is like I think that even pillared or not or whatever, I think that like making a big deal of this new thing, like that's marketing. Even if you're saying the other thing's not as good, but still great, like that's as much as that shits on it. At the end of the day, the pros are going to outweigh the cons for them, and they're going to sell a lot more Neos because they're making it sound like the hot new thing. And more people are going to be like, fuck, I need the new thing, compared to the people that are complaining.
And that's what I kept talking about. I mean, like the base business answer to why are they doing this is to sell Colin and me and you and whoever else a PlayStation Neo that would buy one. We wouldn't have bought a PlayStation 4 this year. Suddenly we are buying a PlayStation 4 this year. And the person who was on the fence to buy a PlayStation 4 this year maybe is going to buy this now that it's settled. And that's kind of like when you're waiting for the price drop or you're waiting for the redesign. When it finally happens, so many people are like, all right, now I'll go pull the trigger.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, but just remember that to the point, good point, salient points. This is the first console, quote unquote, redesign that's more expensive than the console that's on the market.
Luxury
And
item.
that's
So
We'll
so it's
The Elite was more expensive too.
sure, but the Elite, I just don't buy this.
What's different about it, man?
The Elite was just a new Xbox 360 redesign with a modem in it, like or with a wireless card in it.
And it was black, and it had a black controller, and it was more money. Like, that's the thing. It was a redesign. Like, that's all it was. It was a luxury redesign.
And how much was the Elite compared to the original Xbox 360?
I think it was like 150 more. 100 or 150 more.
I don't recall.
Yeah, I don't recall either.
But I do remember seeing that and going, man, that's a fucking good looking system. I wish I had that. But don't care because it still runs my games.
Yeah, but Alfredo cared. And Alfredo upgraded.
No, totally. That's,
You know?
and that's what I'm talking about. You know what I mean?
But
You know what I
We
mean.
will see how this all nets out.
We will, Portillo.
It's one of those things I really hope I'm wrong about. I hope it does great because Sony.
I don't care. Yeah, it's one of the-
I care because Sony's doing great with PlayStation 4 and it's a great console and they really revived and proved everyone wrong with consoles.
But if they fuck it up, we get back to having just the core fans. Remember when we used to have there were no bandwagon people and we had to sit around and talk about trophies and pat upon and everybody knew what we were talking about.
yeah.
Now it's all these fucking kids with their Call of Duty exclusive nuke towns. Get out!
I was going to read a bunch of tweets and Facebook posts from people. I think we discussed this enough, but I do want to read one from Andy Cortez.
Oh no.
Who says...
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. Rooster Teeth, Andy
Rooster
Cortez?
Teeth, Andy from Rooster Teeth, yeah. I tweeted out, I was like, what do you guys think of this PS Neo business? And he responds, I'm going to try to sell my PS4 to some loser that doesn't keep up with gaming news. And then immediately replied again, adding Nick Scarpino. Hey, Nick, are you in the market for a PS4?
Damn, Andy. Good job.
Oh, so that's amazing. All right, topic 2, Star Fox Zero. I want to do a little review of this.
Oh.
We've been talking on Gamescast a lot about trying to, we always do our topics of should you play
Kevba.
this
Take another
or
water.
whatever. Can I get a coffee? That'd be dope. Thank you.
Whoa!
For the dog?
He drank out of it. I just need one.
I'll leave this thing.
Thank you. My dog drank out of my water in my previous segment. Didn't see it? Go to youtube.com/kindoffunnygames.
So I want to start doing like quote unquote reviews more on Gamescast because we keep calling this should you play this and like people get all upset for that for some reason.
People on the internet mad.
Really, they're just reviews. Like we're just doing review discussions. And the problem is we don't call them that because all of us don't play the games. But it's like, for example, last week you did Quantum Break.
Yeah.
That was your review. You know, us talking about Ratchet. That was our review. This is my review of Star Fox Zero and Star Fox Guard.
All right.
To a lesser
So now
extent.
bring in the cool graphic package.
Shit's happening. So Star Fox Zero is a game that I have been waiting a decade for. I love Star Fox. It is one of my favorite franchises overall. Star Fox 64, one of my favorite games ever. Star Fox Assault, not a great game, but it has its moments that were really good. Some of the other ones were forgettable. Adventures was a spinoff, you know. I've been waiting for a console Star Fox experience for a very long time. The Wii never got one. I always wanted one, but it never happened. And then the Wii U, it was announced, and immediately it's like, damn it, this looks off. From the first moment we're shown, it was like, this looks off. We finally have it, and there's been question of, will it be okay? That's always been my thing, is will I have
Because every
fun
time you've
with
played it and we've played it, we're like, the controls suck on this.
Yep.
And you kept saying, well, there has to be a way to turn it off.
That's the thing, is there has to be a way to turn off this gyroscope stuff, and I have to be able to just play a Star Fox game. And you can't. No matter how many people have told me over the last 6 months that like, oh, Nintendo confirmed you can turn it off. There is an option to turn it off, but it doesn't really turn it off. It only turns it off when you're not charging a laser, which in Star Fox, you're constantly charging lasers. That's not even my biggest problem with this game. My biggest problem with this game, because the thing with the gyro controls is they're horrible. They're absolutely horrible. This game feels like when you're playing a launch game that's trying to like take its advantage of the system's like gimmick stuff that
Sure, of course.
never really goes through. But it's like it's a couple years late on that. If this game launched with the Wii U, I think it'd be a totally different story. Where it's like, all right, cool.
They're going to get it next time.
Exactly. But this is like, no, this is
They'll
what
never get this.
No, it's done. And I just wish they didn't use Star Fox to do it because I think this might be the death of the franchise. And I think that it's such a special franchise with such special characters and special gameplay that is unlike anything else that Nintendo provides. And unlike anything else, most other like devs do. Like there's not too many on rails shooters these days, like arcade style games. And Star Fox was always a weird thing where it was I don't want to say AAA game, but it was like an A game, you know. But
a beloved game.
It was like a B-rate game that they treated like it was an A-rate game. And I always appreciated that, where they created this world and it was fun and it was okay. The whole game took you 2 hours, but that 2 hours was fun and you wanted to replay it over and over and over. And the characters were awesome and they meant something. And everything that they did and said, while corny, was the fun type of corny. Like it felt like a Saturday morning cartoon. And I wanted to know more about these characters. When you play as the 4 main ones, you know them, you know, they're such archetypes that are just so like, there's the mentor, there's the annoying one, and then there's the kind of like asshole friend. That's classic. Great. We're good. Then you get all like Fox's friend Bill or Falco's like girlfriend Kat, all these like little side characters that come up as you play. And it's like, it makes you feel like, man, there is a lot more here. Playing this game, I'm like, damn,
There's
guys,
nothing here.
You missed out on what made this whole thing so good. And my biggest criticism of it, besides the motion controls, is that this isn't a sequel. It's a reboot, reimagining. I don't know. It's Star Fox 64 again. The story is the exact same story. The characters are the exact same characters, but the levels suck. They added gimmicks and everything, and it doesn't work. And I just don't understand like what the real thought was besides let's shoehorn the gyro controls and all this because the Wii U has a gamepad, so we need to do all that. Assault, for all of its faults, the foot missions being the biggest fault, those sucked. They were atrocious. But the in-flight missions were awesome. They were just as good as the Star Fox 64 missions. And the story, they continued it. It had Crystal from Adventures, which it's a little bit divisive between people on whether or not they like that. But I liked that it kept the story going, and Peppy was like super old, and like things happened in that game that felt real. There was emotional moments for, you know, animatronic animals. Like it's ridiculous that they anamorphic. What's the word? Anthropomorphic.
Anthropomorphic.
Yeah. And I remember Assault being very special to me, playing on the GameCube, looking and be like, damn, this is beautiful. Like this is what this gen back then Star Fox games should look like. You play this one and it's kind of cute when you think of it as, oh, it's trying to mimic the N64, but that ends really fast.
Sure.
When you start to realize how empty everything is. And it's so much bigger because it's the Wii U, so the levels are way more wide and expansive. And there's a lot more of the all range mode stuff where you're flying all over the place, but there's nothing going on. In Assault, there was a lot of stuff going on. There were so many enemies on screen at one time. Even in Star Fox 64, like there was a lot going on, and the paths that they brought you down brought you to groups of enemies that made sense. Like they made you feel like a badass flying that thing. You felt like you were flying an X-Wing. You know, it felt like you're playing an awesome Star Wars game that wasn't Star Wars, and it was more Saturday morning cartoon than Star Wars, and that's awesome. I remember playing 64 for the first time, and I played the Super Nintendo version, but 64 was really when I fell in love with it. And the backstory they have of Fox's dad going out on this adventure, and he died, and Pigma betrayed him, and all this stuff. I'm like, wow, this is awesome.
This is deep.
That's such a cool storyline, and there's so much going on. And then for them to retread that again here, it's a step back in every way. Even so, visually, I think the GameCube game looks better. The GameCube game definitely sounds better. The GameCube game was one of the first times Nintendo ever had a fully orchestrated score in any game. Something they rarely do, even to this day. Like they've done it with the Mario core games after Galaxy have started doing it. And that gives the games a level of polish, that Nintendo polish that people love. That's what they go to Nintendo games for. And it makes everything feel epic, and it gives it such meaning. And for a game that is based on Star Wars, you need that. This game, not any orchestration to be found. Not a single thing. It's all really shitty MIDI versions of songs we've heard before, or some of the new songs are all right, but it's like, it never feels great. It feels like a budget game through and through the entire way. And I don't like that. The gyro stuff is bad. It's just simply bad. It doesn't control well. And the moments that you get it to work, it's kind of satisfying, just in a very like physical way of like you're moving, and when it happens, it's like any Wii game really. When it works, it's cool, but it doesn't work enough ever. And the voice acting is not as memorable as it used to be. Some of it's all right.
Do they have do a barrel roll in there?
They do.
Of course
and
they do.
That's the biggest thing is like it's a retread in every way where when things happen, it's not like, oh yeah, nostalgia.
Awesome.
It's like, okay,
This shit again.
like I knew that was going to happen. I know this is going to go down. And but it's funny because as much of a retread as it is, it made everything worse. All of the levels have these gimmicks that just don't work. Like there's this level where you're in I don't remember what the fuck they call it, the Jimbo sphere or some shit. And like it finally changes the controls of the R-Wing. So it controls like a modern game where you can aim with the right stick, move with the left one, strafe and all that stuff. And you're going through moving at snail pace. Like it's the slowest thing ever. And you have this little robot you can go to disable computers. And it's just tedious. It's not fun. I don't know why they'd think it's a good idea besides, oh, we have a screen on the controller, so we should probably use that for the robot. And it's just annoying, and it's not good at all. Then there'll be a moment where you're flying. And the flight missions are great. It's Star Fox. Finally, I'm getting what I want. And there'll be a moment of fun. There'll be like an epic battle that happens, and then it's ruined by, all right, now you need to turn into, you're using some other vehicle that you don't want to use. And it's like, they keep teasing you with, all right, it's almost going to get good. This part was almost good, and it never delivers. Up till the very end, it never delivers. There's one mission that I felt a level of, holy shit, this is great. I've never experienced this in Star Fox before. And I think it's called Gamma Zone or something. And it goes super fast. Like the entire thing is like faster than any Star Fox level has ever been. And it's fun. It reminds me of the last level of 64 when you're about to face Andros and you're going through and you're like dodging all this stuff. It's very much like the Death Star trench run.
Sure.
Where you're dodging this stuff and you're going through all these things and there's enemies everywhere and it's exhilarating. It's good. It's making me feel something. And I feel like I'm actually in control of what's going on. And then it goes right back to some bullshit and Slippy's complaining. I'm like, man, it's just disappointing because Star Fox deserves better than this. And people have hated on the franchise for a long time because it's made some missteps with things. And Command on DS was bad. I don't like it. It has some people that really love it. I don't understand it. It was based on Star Fox 2, which is a Super Nintendo game that never actually came out, but it was essentially finished. And that's way slower paced and more, it's a strategy game almost where you kind of draw on the DS, like the path you want to go. And I didn't like that. But I loved Assault for its good parts. I hated Assault for the on foot missions, but the franchise has never lived up to 64. And what's most disappointing is it had an excellent port on the 3DS for Star Fox 64 3DS, which upped the visuals, they get all new voice cast and all this stuff. And that game exists. So I don't know why this game needs to exist.
Exactly.
I don't know why this game needs to be a remake of that game, but worse, when that was a couple years ago. And it's very unfortunate because I think this might be the death of the franchise. And I don't see Nintendo going back because people are going to be upset about this. And then it also comes with the pack-in that's Star Fox Guard, which to me is almost an insult. The game's not bad. Guard, it's a fun little diversion.
What is it?
It's do you remember years ago when they first talked about the Wii U, there was a demo called like Giant Tech Robots, I think it was. And it looks like a bunch of security cameras on the gamepad.
I don't know if I remember
and you
this
cycle or on the screen and then you cycle through and it's a tower defense game. Things are coming at you and then you need to switch between different security cameras to like
and drop
attack
what
them.
you're putting in. Okay.
It's fun. This is kind of just a diversion.
Sure.
Whatever.
Like all the other mobile games you play.
Exactly. That's the thing though. It's a mobile game. I don't need Star Fox and Slippy's, I think, dad, Grippy. Don't need that shit.
That's a good name though for his dad. Come on now.
It's my dude, Grippy.
What up, Grippy? Kung Fu Grip.
I wanted this game to be good, and it's not quite as bad as the Tony Hawk 5 fiasco. Tony Hawk 5 is a horrendous game that I wanted to
But this is just
like.
a game with only 4 seconds of fun in it.
It's not 4 seconds. It's more than that, but it's not good. I don't recommend playing this for sure. Even as a Star Fox fan, it's not. I don't think it's worth your time.
At this point, do you wish they would have just
game.
stopped? They would have, that Star Fox would have been on the 64, and they would have been like, "We're done."
Well, I wouldn't go that far because I liked Assault and Adventures too, but that's a different story. But with this, I wish this game didn't exist. Like I wish, because again, I think that this is going to kill everything, and that sucks because there's so much potential with it.
But that's the whole thing. Do you think it can be killed? Star Fox is the thing. I mean, Google had its own do a barrel roll thing. Like it is a established thing, whether it was ever a AAA game or not, right? You figure now they come out, they put this game out, and like I really do feel that like the Wii U, like midway through the Wii and Wii U, was Nintendo kind of marching off the path, right? Of just like, well, we're doing this and we're doing these cool things and you'll get the Metroid game you really want. But for right now, here's this thing. And it's like, if NX is what we want it to be, if NX can be what we want NX to be, it's going to be similar to the PlayStation 4's diversion back, right? Of like, we make games, we're good at that. Sorry, we kind of forgot that and got into gimmicky shit. Here is a Star Fox you want. Here is a Metroid you want. Here is a...
I don't know. And the biggest compliment I can give this game is that it is a B level game, and I miss that. I miss playing a game and being like,
you miss those mediocre games.
But I mean, it's not so much even mediocre. I'm talking about just like production budget and like just like level of what it is. This isn't a game that is 20 hours long. You're supposed to beat it in a couple hours.
Yeah.
And I miss it. Playing it, it reminded me of a different time. It reminded me of 2 generations ago, where there was the God of Wars, but then there was also just other random shit to do.
Yeah.
And so that's cool, but it's not good enough. And that's the problem, is they're fucking it up. They're not like taking advantage of what could be a really cool niche for Nintendo to film. And like they shoehorn gimmicks. I think even if this game could turn off the motion controls, I don't think that would have fixed it.
Yeah.
Like
because it's not the game you want, right?
There's
it's
other
not the
issues with
dogfighting,
it.
fun, frantic. Here, I'm Star Fox.
Yeah, there's some of it. There's just not enough of it. So,
do you think this has anything to do with the Car Fox from Carfax?
No, I don't think so.
I just wonder.
Yeah,
Could be brand confusion there.
Yeah,
people really like him. He's on an upswing.
He's doing some.
Because remember when the Car Fox from Carfax was just a stupid puppet, and then he's all of a sudden became like a CGI fox, and people were like, "Fuck, this Car Fox, he's got
like
a future."
the General.
Yeah. Oh man, the General.
Remember when the General?
Yeah, Eagle Man never made that jump, but the General sure did.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the General and save some time.
Ladies and gentlemen, this topic brought to you by
General Insurance.
No, definitely not. This topic brought to you by Pro Flowers. Mom has always been an expert on everything, whether it's cooking, relationship advice, fixing your cuts and bruises. If you have a question, like, do jeans count as business casual? How quickly does chicken thaw? How do I do my taxes? The one thing you can't go to her for advice on is what to get her for Mother's Day. Not to worry. You'll look like an expert on Mother's Day when you use Pro Flowers. Pro Flowers takes the guesswork out of sending mom, grandma, or wife the perfect Mother's Day gift. Pro Flowers are guaranteed to be fresh and beautiful for at least 7 days or your money back. You can get mom 100 blooms with a free glass vase for $19.99 plus shipping and handling, or make your day extra special and upgrade to a premium vase and add gourmet chocolates for just $9.99. You're going to want to do that. Get that gourmet chocolates. Visit proflowers.com, click the blue microphone in the top right corner and type in KF Games. Remember, Mother's Day is right around the corner. Order today because this offer expires this Friday.
Oh my gosh.
Or next Friday, depending on the show.
When they listen to it.
When you're
Fucking
listening
Friday.
to this.
Just order your mom some goddamn flowers.
Yeah.
Got a
Use the
wife?
code,
Order
KF
that.
Games.
Got a girlfriend? You guys share an animal? Get her flowers
Share an
too.
animal. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I get what you're saying. All right, moving on to the next topic.
Moving on.
We are talking about the Nintendo NX.
Throw them up.
There's been more rumors, guys.
Thank you, Kev. Thanks for joining me. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah. So, I was thinking about NX recently. Big
what a surprise. You're NX's biggest fanboy,
I am
remember?
NX's biggest fanboy.
Even though you were the first one to sell it up the river when you thought that controller was real.
Oh, yeah, well, fuck that. That's some Star Fox Zero garbage. So this is mind-blowing to me that we are months away. Like, not even months. Like, month and a half away. From hearing about this NX. Probably.
That's how close E3
We're going to assume it's
is.
at E3, right?
Oh, no.
That's exciting times. Rumors are in freaking full bloom right now. It's like they went to proflowers.com. Shit's popping up everywhere. NeoGAF is ablaze. This dude named 10K comes through, starts dropping all these bombs, talking about how the NX is going to be more powerful than the PS4 and this and that, whatever. Then someone else comes in, forgot his name, things like...
Which PS4?
Dun, 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 dun.
Not that Neo shit, though, I'll tell you that much. But this dude comes in, he's like, nah, like he's quoting me using sources that are totally not right. Like he's using me as a source when I use someone else as a source. Like you can't do that, whatever. 10K gets banned from NeoGAF.
Damn, Gaff.
Yeah, he'll be back. I think his
They're
ban's
all
up in June. So there's that. He's suspended, I guess is the right, way to put it.
Without pay.
Then one Emily Rogers comes through.
Who is a well-known source.
Mm-hmm. In the Nintendo
exactly. She's
sphere.
been talking about NX for a long time.
And she writes some stuff, and I want to read this. It's a little lengthy, but I think it's very interesting. Let's go.
I'm gonna kick up my heels.
Instead of focusing our attention solely on hardware, we should really be having a discussion about NX's software. Based on things I've heard, I'm 100% confident that the NX's software output will blow away the Wii U's software output, parentheses, which was never impressive to begin with. That sounds like some talk shit gets shot stuff that I do not agree with, but all right. In
The output, you really, like, don't get me wrong. Did the Wii U have good games? Yes, the Wii U had good games. Great games. I'm not saying that. But you're saying the output of the Wii U was great.
All right. If you're talking about output, about...
Which is literally what she's talking about.
Yes, I know, but she's talking shit about the
Got your back,
library.
Emily Rogers.
She's
What
talking
up?
about the library.
What up, Emily?
In a single year, the NX will build a larger library of games than Wii U produced in 3 or 4 years. This isn't some hyperbolic statement. This isn't speculation nor blind optimism. These aren't my personal fan wishes either. Furthermore, my negative feelings toward the Wii U have zero influence on any of the information mentioned below. Here's what I've been told by my sources close to Nintendo.
Reggie.
The big fundamental focal point and overall goal behind NX is to vastly increase the software output from Nintendo's first-party teams and studios. Hell yeah. To accomplish this, the entire process of how Nintendo develops and produces software has gone through radical changes. There's a new strategy that was put in place to create and release first-party software at a faster rate. Multiple unannounced Wii U projects were moved over to NX. The NX could potentially see the highest output of first-party software in the company's history. I'm talking about the entire lifespan of NX, not just 1 or 2 years. Now, there are a few things that need to be mentioned here. Reminder, a new process/strategy doesn't necessarily mean the software won't ever be delayed or there won't ever be gaps between releases. There's no perfect strategy that will prevent delays if a project requires more polish or if a project just isn't coming together as the company had hoped. Also, the company does Nintendo Direct, so it's unknown how much software will be revealed at E3 this year. For example, Bayonetta 2 wasn't announced until 3 months after E3 2012. Games like Xenoblade Chronicles X, Yoshi's Woolly World, and Wind Waker HD weren't revealed until the January 2013 Direct, 2 months after the Wii U launched. So it's possible that Nintendo may save some game announcements for later events after E3. I highly doubt that we'll see them bust their entire load at E3.
Whoa.
With that said, the NX definitely won't be the shit show that we experienced on Wii U with 3-month droughts on a regular basis, at least not when it comes to first-party support. Then she goes into this whole thing about denouncing some of the 10K's rumors about its power level and how one of the rumors was that it's the portable aspect of it was
Sure.
going to use pretty much like remote play, but like a stronger, better version of it, and the technology they use for streaming games from the TV to the gamepad so that you can take your game with you anywhere. And
Yeah.
she's just like, no, that's
That's
not,
impossible.
That's totally not right. And someone from Nintendo laughed at that. Yeah. So
my
that's kind of
Miyamoto
where
laugh.
that's at. What do you guys take from this?
I hope she's right. I think that'd be cool if NX came out and was like, we've got it on lock. Here's all the, and again, like she's saying, not the E3 announcement, but within that first year, they're like, guess how many games we've put out? You know what I mean? Like, we're committed to this. This is the whole thing. And it would speak to what I keep talking about with NX and like what people try to attack Colin for. And he'll be like, no, like if this is, I still don't think Nintendo has the goodwill or the support of third parties. And I think that could come with the NX being successful. But can a Nintendo system be successful with just Nintendo behind it? Colin's always quick to point out, no, look at the Wii U. That's exactly what's happened here, right? And it was a failure. It did not do well. It had great games, some great games, but not enough to move units, get in everybody's house, right?
Yeah.
If NX can come out and be like, we're this cross-platform thing, goes your TV, take it on the road with you. We got a Mario at launch, the not Skyward Sword, Zelda, whatever they're calling it, has been ported over, and it's this, that, and the other. Like, get it in the units, get people excited, get units out to people's houses, and they're excited about it. Then you get third parties to come in. But it would need to be this, where Nintendo has to be like, we are all in on this. This is not some weird thing we're toying around with. This is not us testing the waters. This is our future, is the NX, and we are all in. Here's all these games for it.
So a couple questions with that. So with the thing about the Nintendo games not selling the console or whatever, I wonder if it would have been a different story if the Wii U didn't have such droughts in between releases, and if there was, in addition to the great games the Wii U has, more real core games. Like if there was a 3D Mario and if there was a real Zelda sooner, you know, and a Metroid game. Like I wonder if those would have been enough.
100%.
Based on Mario Kart and Smash and whatever, it seems like it wouldn't be, but those are kind of big omissions. So I don't know if we've ever seen a console generation where we've had enough of that to be able
that's what this would be, though. This would be them coming out of the gate firing on all cylinders. Here are the games you want. Here is the real Metroid game you want. Here is, not obviously here, but for argument's sake, here's the real Star Fox game you want.
Yeah. So then my other thing after that, when it comes to third parties, like I agree, like Nintendo needs the third parties to be able to compete on that level with PS4.5 and Xbox. But can that ever happen? Like Colin, like what do you think in terms of third-party games being on Nintendo, they're always going to be outshined by what Nintendo does.
Yeah, I mean that's the brilliance of Nintendo's development, though. The Nintendo games have always been, with the exception of maybe the SNES and the NES, like Nintendo's games have always really stood head and shoulders, I think, above all the other games on their consoles, especially with N64, I think, and GameCube to a degree, Wii to a high degree, and Wii U, I think, to a definitive degree. The thing that she says that really I question, even though Emily Rogers is very well connected, I think she says what she hears, and I think she has very, very great, great connections. And Nintendo is the prolific output of NX. I believe that the NX will have a lot of Nintendo games on it. I think it's not going to be like the Wii U, but I think specifically about the NES and how, like, with the licensing limitations for publishers on the NES, with only 5 games per publisher per year allowed, Nintendo really did have to release a lot of games, and they published a lot of games. On the NES. I don't know if it's the most of any of their consoles. I wouldn't know that for sure. My assumption would be that actually DS probably had the most Nintendo published things. But the NES specifically launch games, I mean, there was like a fucking million of them. Almost no one was making games for the NES except for Nintendo for a couple of years. So to me, like, I question whether that's really going to pan out or not. But to the point she's making, like, my assumption is the NX is definitely more powerful than the PS4. I would fucking hope so. Since it's coming out 3 years after the PS4, if it was on par or weaker than the PS4, man, you have some fucking problems.
That'd be Wii U again.
Yeah, like, so it's good that they're forward thinking in that way.
She wasn't saying that, though. As far as I understand, that's what
that
he
was
was
one of the
saying.
things she was debunking.
Yeah, but she was just saying that that wasn't confirmed from the source, or that source wasn't valid.
Well,
it's not that it's not true.
I'll reiterate that it better be. Like, the PS4 is not a very powerful machine, so it's by 2016 standards, it's not like this behemoth of power and technology.
No one can top this.
And as per, like, IPs that are going to be available, I still say Metroid's clearly going to be a launch game. Retro's been kind of quiet, and Metroid's been quiet, and I think that, after Tropical Freeze, so I assume that that's what they're working on. But to Greg's point, and the point I've made, like, they do need to engender third-party support, and my assumption is that they're trying, and I'm sure that they are going to have third-party launch games. It's just a matter of, are they ports of games like the Wii U was with Mass Effect 3 and Arkham and all these kinds of weird ass fucking games? Like, why are these games even on this console? They have to get more games. I hate to say, like Zombie U or something that were at least exclusive for a time for the console, and they need to get a few of those. And they need to get a few of those regularly, because it is true that the proof it's already out there. Like, a Nintendo, like, there's a fucking contradiction that a lot of people just ignore, where people are like, well, people only buy Nintendo products for Nintendo games, and I'm like, well, that's clearly not fucking true. So let's stop saying that. But
what I'm saying is, I was like, what if that is true? They just Nintendo didn't make those games for the Wii U.
But they did make those games for the Wii U. I mean, the Mario Kart is fucking huge. Smash Brothers 2. I mean, what game are they going to make other than a 3D Mario game that's going to sell more than those? I think
it's the Mario or the Zelda.
But Zelda games, I mean, Zelda games don't sell that well. So it's similar. They sell better than Metroid games.
But I think they sell
thing.
consoles, though. I think that's the difference. Is they might not sell that well, but the attach rate, I'd assume.
The attach rate will be very high. I mean, the attach rate of Mario Kart is 50% or something like that. Maybe even more.
Splatoon is insane. Like, the amount of people that own Splatoon compared to having Wii U's is mind blowing.
So to me, but to me, it's like, this is a small and shrinking audience, and no matter how good the games are, Splatoon, as good as it is on Wii U, probably would have sold even way better if it was on PS4 and Xbox One. So you have to look at, like, Nintendo's ability to just push hardware, because people just don't believe in it. It's weak. It's gimmicky. Traditionally, it's weak. Traditionally, it's gimmicky. And traditionally, it only has Nintendo games. And if you can't rely on a prolific output, I mean, the output needs to. She was talking about 3-month gaps. I feel like the gaps with quality products on Wii U have been longer than that. And I think that for them to really survive, they're going to need a Nintendo A or AAA game like every month and a half. And it's like, with their limited studio, I mean, they have a big first party, but, like, there's not enough resources for them to do that. They need to have third party support, because a game as great as Smash Brothers, a game as great as Mario Kart, a game as great as some of these Mario games that they released or whatever, not that they released a true 3D Mario game, I'm going to assume that will obviously be a launch game as well. To me, it's like, you have to have more than that. Nintendo can't sell hardware based on its own games anymore, which is why they should just become a publisher. So I'm interested to see how the NX does. I'm kind of indifferent to it. Like, I root for it in the sense that it's hard to believe Nintendo couldn't be a hardware manufacturer, but it's also like, you kind of just want them to just fucking eat some crow and, like, finally put their fantastic games in places that people can play them.
I mean, I agree with you. Like, if I had control, I would just make that happen, and Nintendo would just make games for other consoles, and it would just be a done deal. It's not going to happen now, so I'm rooting for the NX. I want this to happen. And what excites me is this talk about consolidating the teams. And we've heard a lot about restructurings at Nintendo. So, like, the EAD team supposedly, like, is renamed. It's different now. It's not even just them making console games. It's the 3DS teams and the the Wii U teams are now going to be working together on as making games. And I think that to me is exciting because for at least a couple of years, like early on, the Wii U and the 3DS had great games. There was big gaps, but when you combined the two, because most people look at Nintendo fans as Nintendo fans, not necessarily Wii U fans or 3DS fans.
Right.
It's like there was a good solid stream coming divided across two things, which is not ideal. If we get that output on both on the NX, I think that's great. That's a great thing. Add on some third-party support, add on some other things. And what's really exciting me is something Nintendo's not always done, but since the GameCube era where they partner, they trust third parties. And I think that a great way to use third parties is to make Nintendo games. There's no limit to the amount of Nintendo games they can make. They have so many franchises that can have so many spin-offs and so much shit. You see F-Zero, right? They worked with Sega to make it on GameCube. Smash Bros. With Bandai Namco. Star Fox now with Platinum. Like they're working with other groups, and I think that that's good. I think that they need to make more Nintendo games happen. You know, like create a series of things coming out. And I think that by trusting Capcom to make a Zelda game, you know, like they did with Oracle of Ages and Seasons, I think that is a good way to get shit happen, be more prolific and get all of that rolling. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, to your point, I mean, working with third parties, really they need second party support, which is basically what those studios became and those publishers became when they were making, you know, IP exclusive to Nintendo. So even Smash Brothers with Namco. Kind of working in the capacity of a second party, and that's what they need. They need to. I agree. They need to spend money. They're going to have to spend a lot of money. Like the NX is going to be a big investment for them. If they treat this thing like a Wii U and have an output like Wii U and the games like Wii U, it's going to fail, and it's going to fail quickly. And I contest the notion that Nintendo can rebound. Like I just don't know that it's going to happen. Like I don't know. I don't care how good this thing is. Like I just don't know. Like kids today play a lot of PC games, a lot of phone games. Hardcore gamers are content with their Xbox Ones and their PS4s. And PC gamers are PC gamers and they're doing their thing. Like it's like, where does this thing fit? To get your Nintendo fix, you're going to have a Nintendo console. But again, we already knew that and it didn't matter. I mean, the Wii U is barely selling better than the Vita. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. And it's a Nintendo product. It's not a fucking, handheld. It's supposed to be their flagship. So I need to see more. I need to hear more. As interested as I am in Neo and some of the upcoming games that are coming out for various consoles. I mean, this is the one. I need to see this.
Yeah.
And I don't care what they say because I do care in the sense that like when they announced Wii U, I was like, this thing's trash. I mean, this thing's so obviously trash. And there were people that were really holding on to the hope that it was going to be more than that. And so with this new thing, I hope the fidelity is great. I hope the hardware is fantastic. I hope they're willing to charge a pretty penny for it if they have to say like we're a different kind of Nintendo, but I just don't know that they are a different kind of Nintendo. And eventually I think that ultimately they're going to be making games for others. And I think they have to swallow their pride and they should just do it already. And I think that when they do it, they will be pleasantly surprised how much Mario sells. If they can sell 5 million copies of Mario Kart on a Wii U with an install base of 12 million, how many can they sell on PS4 and Xbox One and PC? I bet you more like 20 or 25 million, So, worth noting that that's a possibility, and then they can get rid of all this hardware architecture that they have to do, this R&D, it's all big time. These are sunken costs for this company. They're spending billions of dollars probably on this shit. They just be like, we don't have to do this anymore. These guys make consoles. Let's get into bed with them and fucking make great games for them. We are a game maker. It's okay. That's okay. Let these other guys, these fools, fucking waste their money on hardware.
Don't worry about the stigma Sega put on it. You can make it good.
Nintendo can totally do it.
Yeah, 100%.
To be optimistic about it right now, like just looking at the NX, and again, as far as I'm concerned, there's no reason to be anything but optimistic until they crush our dreams. Like until they come out and like I know what this is. I'm hoping that it's good, and I think that there's a lot of good signs that point to it potentially being aimed towards something like we want. And I think a big arrow towards that is the fact that we look at the Wii U's output this year and the 3DS's output this year, and we're getting things like Star Fox that they're rush jobs. Like they could have been delayed and it could have been taken forever, but it's still rushed. It's still just like here's something to have. You look at the 3DS and the games coming out for it over the next year, and they're all either localizations or games that are using pre-existing engines or stuff like that. I'm not saying they're bad, but there are things like the Metroid Federation Force or Zelda, the Triforce Heroes or whatever. It's like, all right, they're smaller titles. That's not the real stuff, quote unquote. And I think that's aiming towards something. You know, like it says a lot that they released a shitty Animal Crossing party game on the Wii U instead of an Animal Crossing game. You know, is there an NX one? And I like all she's talking about the a lot of Wii U projects were moved over to NX. Good. Like let's start fresh. Let's get this fucking right this time.
Have a year one that has most of the tentpoles you want.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. Like I can't believe what she's saying about in the first year it's going to have more than 3
and 4.
That's a lot. But I do think that it doesn't need to be more. It just needs to be
the right ones.
The right ones.
Right.
And that will be enough to get me super excited about this whole thing. All these rumors actually for the first time ever made me really think about the handheld console hybrid thing, and like I don't know if that is what I want.
Really?
Yeah.
Like when we just said Animal Crossing, I was like, fuck, if I had an Animal Crossing that tomorrow I could toss into my bag, and like not that the 3DS one wasn't a real one, right? But I'm talking about in the moment, you know, it looks great. I can put on my TV when I get home. Because that's the thing. Right now, totally ignorant of like what it's going to look like, how it's going to be, da da da. If we're talking about this NX, we're talking about this hybrid thing, NX would become a handheld for me. And then it would be like the games I'm really hooked on, I'd come home and play. But like the ability to toss a new Mario game in, a new Zelda game in, a new Animal Crossing into my bag tonight for tomorrow and play that on the plane, and be like, fuck yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
See, my thing with that is that would be awesome. I'm concerned that that's impossible. I'm concerned.
Oh, no. To be very clear, I agree with you. What does the HUD look like? How am I able to read anything on the screen? The processing power,
like,
XX, and it goes on.
It needs to match, and because my thing is, if it doesn't match, I'd rather just focus on one of them, even if it means there is no portable, which is blasphemy for Nintendo.
Yeah,
you know, totally. But it's like if they take all of the talent that is put into 3DS games, which there is a lot of, and move them onto NX games. Same thing with Wii U, and they're all working on this stuff. And then there's the phones. They're working on phone mobile games, that is what handhelds are, and that's their future. I think that's a very bold move that I might be wrong. It might not pay off, but I think that that's the right way to make console Nintendo a thing again.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Also launch with a Mario Golf.
Don't think that'll happen.
1 million sold day one.
The shared library thing is what concerns me, because if it is a portable hybrid thing, like the games need to be right on both. It needs to not be a lesser experience, or if it is a lesser experience, an understandably lesser experience. Like if games were similar, like how Smash Bros was, I'm almost okay with that.
Yeah,
it's pretty much there. Having said that, those are two different games. Like that's an issue. If we're already having problems with Nintendo putting out enough games now, like them having to make two totally different versions of games, that's not going to fly.
Of course.
Let me see. Where are we at?
I believe we're at the final topic.
We are at the final topic. Before we get to the final topic, I want to give a shout out to Steven Insler, our Patreon producer.
What up, Steven?
Shout out to Steven Insler. He went over to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames to support this show, make this show happen. He's a big, beautiful kid, and I love him. Love him a lot. Final topic of the day, as always, brought to you by the Kind of Funny forums. Go to kindoffunny.com/topic to leave your topic, and we'll get to it just like we're doing right now with Antonio Laurana.
Antonio.
He says, hola from Bolivia.
Hola from Bolivia.
That means hi from Bolivia, Kevin.
Oh.
Kevin, can you translate? Is that correct?
No.
If you could exchange a first-party IP or first-party studio of equal value that would benefit more between PlayStation and Xbox, who would you pick?
So it was a trade.
Yeah.
It's something for something, and it can be an IP or a developer, but they have to be equal. Correct? I'm reading the question right? Well, hot off the heels of Quantum Break, I would want Remedy to make a PlayStation game. And I feel like a good trade...
Remedy's not first party, though.
Was that what he said? Yeah, I thought it was exclusives. My apologies.
Yeah, it's first party.
Oh.
Can
I cheat? Well, then how about this then? Here, I'll give you a real answer, then I'll do 2 second parties. How about that, Colin? Remedy, because they're in this deal with Microsoft all the time when they're making these exclusive games. And then they can have Quantum Break. We'll flip-flop for
Quantum
that.
Dream.
What did I say?
Quantum Break.
God, I'm fucking up. You know exactly what I meant.
Got it.
We're on the same
Got
wavelength.
it.
You're
Yeah.
with me, yes.
That would be...
Quantic Dream. I'd still want Detroit before it goes. That's announced and done. Because I already got Quantum Break on this side. Give me Detroit on the other side. Then we get a flip-flop. They go over there and do it.
PlayStation.
But now we'll go triple. Now we're going triple. We're going exclusives.
PlayStation gets Gears of War. Xbox gets Starhawk.
What a perfect exclusive 1-for-1 trade.
I Besides, I mean, taking the studios out of it because I think that like boils or like complicates.
So we
things a
talk about
little bit.
IPs then.
Yeah, just talking about IPs. What would be interesting?
Well, here's a question then, and this is embarrassing. I don't know this, but I guess is State of Decay owned by Microsoft, Colin, or is that because I know
Undead Labs.
Undead Labs does it. They're not a first party for Microsoft.
Yeah, State of Decay I think is an IP that Microsoft owns.
All right, good. I want that IP, and what will I give them in return? Give me a second.
Tokyo Jungle. Medieval.
I'm thinking of a good downloadable IP. You know what I mean? A game that's not AAA, something in the middle here.
The Last Guy.
No one takes Last Guy. We desperately need another Last Guy.
No one takes
No
the
one
last
gets, no
guy.
one ever gets the Last Guy. Undead Labs, they're up and coming. They're making this game. State of Decay. It's a zombie thing. You run around. You have a lot of fun with it.
Next question.
I'll stew on this for a second.
Just games. I want to trade just for a one-off Master Chief Collection for Nathan Drake Collection. I think that'd be cool. Entice motherfuckers to play some good ass games.
Okay.
Dutch Best Friend is his name. Oh, you're gonna like this one, Greg. Coolste gasten in video games. It's Dutch. Oi.
Still don't know if that's,
Oi.
don't know if that's a
Oi.
real language.
Do you guys ever think it'll be possible to sell your digital games to other consumers? Maybe by giving a percentage of the selling price to the developer/publisher. Although, why would a publisher do this if they can sell the game full price? Thanks, guys, and keep the content coming. No.
No. I mean, if anybody's going to do it, it'd be Steam. But I mean, no, they're not going to do that
Yeah.
because they want you to buy full price Steam games.
Yeah, this whole emphasis on digital licenses and use it's so dumb. I don't get I just don't get who this benefits other than just GameStop. Or someone that's trying to get in. It's like, who else does this benefit? The publishers and developers are never going to go for that.
Yeah. It don't make no sense.
Ever.
Ben Hamilton, UK says,
Dead Nation. State of Decay for Dead Nation.
Oh, you're crazy. What the fuck's wrong with you? All right, next.
have you ever found a game so difficult or frustrating that you've given up early on? Which games? If so, do you think developers should make an effort to make games more accessible and less frustrating so more people enjoy more of the content? Do you think it's possible for a game to be too hard by design to its detriment? I think hard and frustrating are different aspects of games.
I agree, and I think the game that comes to mind, because I often talk about how games just aren't that hard anymore, and if you can just really beat any game you want as long as you put your mind to it, which is not really the case when we were younger.
Yeah.
The one game that I remember, and I reviewed it, if I remember correctly, based on like me playing it the same 2 stages or so over and over again, not being able to get past it, was Under Siege on PS3. Do you remember that game?
I do.
That game was fucking ridiculous. I remember. I think it was a strategy game of some sort. And it was a long time ago when I played it. But I remember being, I was like, this game fucking is so hard. Like, I remember looking at it being like, I don't even understand how you do this. like I remember playing it for like days and being like, how the fuck are you supposed to even play this? And I think, if I remember correctly, the devs like patched it to make it easier because it was ridiculous. And so that was the one game where I'm like, I don't know that I can even beat, but I don't remember ever really encountering a game where I'm like, it's like that fucking hard.
What about World at War?
World at War on Veteran was ridiculous. I probably could have done it had I really just stayed the course, but I was like, why would I bother doing this? But there's some games that are too hard that ramp. I think the bigger thing is the art of ramping difficulty. And that's usually comes from play testing and getting outside perspectives on your games. But I do think that, Under Siege is that PS3 game. I was like, well, fuck this game.
I was talking about Deadpool, that PS3 Deadpool that also came to Xbox, and then it made the recent jump to PS4, Xbox One as well.
Yeah.
It was similar to what you were talking about with Star Fox a while back, that it was a B game and it knew it was a B game and it was an Activision cash-in, but it had Nolan North and it was being true to the character and it was before the movie. So, I mean, it was like, oh, he's cursing and talking about sex and stuff. This is fun. And it was a fun ride. And then that last fucking stage, the difficulty exploded to where I was having such a great time playing with it for like 2 nights. And then I got there and like, after like 15 minutes of just getting fucked over and over again, I was like, fuck this game. And took it out and went to Twitter and said, fuck this game. You know what I mean? I had so much fun with it, but fuck this ending. What are they doing? Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people with Quantum Break about that. That was a big question about that final boss.
Like the final boss.
Where I had no problem with it, but I saw McCaffrey just put up an Unlocked where he was complaining about it too. That it's stuck for him.
There was, I don't remember exactly when it was. It was early on in the game in Devil May Cry 2, which not a great game, but I didn't know at the time. And there was a boss that was just like, it had some like one-hit kill move that was just unpredictable, and it just kept happening. I'm like, this isn't hard, this is bullshit.
Yeah, that's always the one, right?
So mad at it for so long.
Yeah, when there's no real rhyme or reason to why you're getting fucked over, that's the most annoying thing.
Yeah. So should developers make games Less hard? No, I don't think so.
Oh, make them harder.
They should, but definitely less frustrating. Frustrating. That's not a good game. Rhymenoceros says, "Hey dudes, been listening for a while. First post ever. What are your best memories you have of getting a new console? I'll never forget coming home from kindergarten and watching my brother play Mario 64 for the first time, or my grandmother coming over in 2001 because she had just found a purple Keebler cookie and had won something called a Nintendo Cube that she wanted to give me. What consoles stick out for you? Love everything you do. Keep up the
What
great
if she
work."
would have eaten the purple cookie and you never would have
That would have
known?
been ridiculous. Honestly, the reason I chose this question, because we've answered this
Yeah.
many times, but it was the Keebler story.
That's
I
really
liked
good
that
one.
a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, I was talking about my PS2 story being a big deal, where I knew I was going to do that, so I took a job at Walmart over the summer. Would go over to Best Buy on my breaks because I hated the job at Walmart, and would buy DVDs and then just sit and look at them in the car, and then put them on my shelf, and then be like, I can't wait to watch these special features. And then waiting in line 9 hours at Meijer to fucking buy my PlayStation 2 or whatever, and taking it home and all this different stuff. But a more rare one, I guess, was my Nintendo 64, where I wanted that for Christmas. It was like I was in freshman year of high school, so like it was like, you know, I knew my parents were probably gonna get it. It was the only like thing I was asking for or whatever. But they did like the Christmas story thing where I opened up my other presents and didn't get it, and I was like, that sucks or whatever. And then they sent me downstairs for something. When I came back up, it was on the hall tree. I was like, that's pretty good.
Yeah. I've tried to tell stories I haven't told already.
Yeah, it's tough, right?
My Nintendo, the NES, I got it. It was my second console I ever got. I got the Super Nintendo first, and I got it at a garage sale for $7. And I got my Nintendo and 20 games.
This is Kev's mom, right? I thought this was a story tied to her.
Oh, she would. Did I tell the story before?
Yeah.
Damn.
But it might have been an
that's life.
exclusive or whatever.
Maybe she took us to the garage sale.
Okay.
But yeah, it was the biggest come up I've ever had. It was 20 games, and we're talking everything, all the Marios, Ninja Turtles, all the Zeldas
For $7?
$7.
Damn.
There was like 2 zappers. I don't even know why I needed that. There was like 4 controllers. Why? It was like just ridiculous. So that was amazing. And the other one would be my GameCube, where I bought it, and it was I didn't have the money. Like I didn't think I was going to be able to get it day one, so
Yeah.
it wasn't pre-sale or anything, or pre-ordered. And I went to Toys R Us because like last minute I scrapped up enough where I was like, fuck, I can get this. I knew Melee was right around the corner. I'm like, this needs to happen. And I went and obviously wanted the jet black because I don't want this fucking indigo bullshit.
Purple garbage.
The last black sells out right before me. I'm like, damn it. And then I had that hard decision of what do I do? But guess what, Greg?
You got that indigo.
I got that indigo.
Got a can black spray paint,
I ain't waiting.
$3.99.
I ain't fucking waiting. But yeah, that shit drove me nuts for years. Because Curran had the black one.
Yeah,
It
he
was
had the
way
cool one.
cooler.
I had the black one as well. No big deal. I think I've told the story about NES, SNES, N64, Genesis, PS1, PS2, GameCube. I don't think I told him the story about how I got my Xbox. It was summer 2003. IGN wanted me to write a strategy guide for KOTOR, and I didn't have an Xbox, so they paid me a bunch of money for like my fee, and then they bought me money to go buy an Xbox. And I went to Best Buy to buy it. And I remember I went to the bank to like cash a check, and I had like an IGN envelope that they would pay me in, like with the old IGN silver logo on it. And I remember just taking the cash out because I didn't have I never had like $400 or whatever the fuck it cost, $250, whatever it was. I mean, at one time, I remember the guy saw the IGN logo, was like, oh, that's pretty cool, whatever. And I was like, yeah, and I bought the console, and I bought Halo. Because KOTOR was coming like the next day, and I remember playing Halo and being like, this game's fucking awesome. Not really expecting it, and then went on and played the Return to Castle Wolfenstein and some other games that summer. But that was how I got my Xbox, and it was that fall that I actually really started playing games online for the first time when I went to college, and I had a T1 connection, playing Rainbow Six and some other games on there. And I actually, kind of surprised a lot of people, I fucking loved the original Xbox. That was like a great console. It was so ahead of its time.
Stubbs zombie, yo.
It was like way the fuck ahead of its time, and I always really dug it. So that was how I got my Xbox. I think every other story is like, well worn at this point, I would have to assume.
Final question of the day. It's from Nariso. It's combining some topics here, and I like it.
Nariso.
Greetings from Brazil. Oi.
Oi.
I like how they all write the oi.
They know.
Do you guys think PS 4.5 can hurt NX sales?
No.
No.
Yeah, I don't
They're
think-
different audiences.
Yeah, I think it's totally
NX is going to hurt
Different.
NX sales.
NX is going to give it to you.
Well, people are like, well, maybe Sony's like reacting with Neo to NX. I'm like, they're not reacting to Nintendo at all.
There's nothing to react to with Nintendo. What do they know?
This thing, they didn't just pull this out of their ass 2 weeks ago. Like this is something that's been in the cards for a while. I think they kind of exist on their own. Nintendo's clearly going to exist in like the middle market again. It's not a good place to be, by the way. Most consoles do not succeed there, whether we're talking about the Dreamcast or we're talking about the Wii U. So it's risky, but they have to do something.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the first and last ever episode 67 of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. We're only 2 episodes away from another episode.
That you're going to
So-
make a big deal about with your 69s.
I'm probably not, but I'm going to say it a lot. That's for damn sure. If you don't have tickets yet for Kind of Funny Live, go to kindoffunny.com/tickets. Get your tickets. Then
Also,
tweet at me. Tell me you got your ticket, and we'll have a nice little party.
If you want to buy Tim a blow-up doll and send it to the P.O. box, he'll 69 it.
I will.
On episode
Live on the
69.
show, on the table. I'll lay on it.
Wow. You'll lay on it.
You know what? I want to be on top, yeah. Never done that before. Have you guys ever done that before? You ever been on top of
That's
the
not
six-
even. That's not even.
All right. We'll save that for later.